Stephanie, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bring you my August wrap-up. Normally the way I've been doing this is separating it into a mid-month and end-of-month wrap-up, but I'm very behind on my videos. So I'm going to try to be short and sweet and concise and let you guys know all the awesome books that I read in the month of October. So let's just jump right in. The first book I read is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This is an adult book, and it is the first book in the Nevernight Chronicles, and it follows the story of Mia Corvair and her quest for vengeance for her parents. And she becomes this amazing assassin. And I do have a full book review on this that I'll link up above so that you can hear more in-depth thoughts about when I was reading this. But I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is the first book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. The second book being The Wicked King, and the third book being The Queen of Nothing, which is actually coming out, I believe, this month or early next month. So I'm so behind. So this was a reread for me. This follows the story of Jude, and she was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were taken to the land of Fae. And cut to many years later, Jude is a teenager and trying to fit in, and she becomes heavily involved in the intrigues and politics that are going on in the high court, and things go from there. This was a really good book. The first time I read it, I was on the fence about it. I gave it like a 3.54 stars the first time I read it, and because it was just so different. The Cruel Prince is Carden, and he is a very cruel prince. The Fae are very brutal and unfeeling in this book. So the first time I read it, I just thought it was pretty good. It was definitely unique, but it wasn't something that I just wanted everybody to read, but it did stick with me. And then when I read it this time, I liked it a whole lot more, and I really appreciated all the nuance that Holly Black put into this. So I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but it was a high 4 stars. Next, I read Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. This was her memoir, From Gilmore Girls to Gilmore Girls, and I read this for the group book for the Gilmore Girls readathon, and I listened to it on audiobook, and it was absolutely fantastic. I loved Lauren Graham's writing style and her narrating style, and I love how authentic her book is, and how funny it is, and just how down to earth she is. And I just really, really enjoyed my time reading it. And it was very sentimental because I do love the Gilmore Girls, so I cried at the end, but I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books I read on one of my practicum days for school, and they are kids books. So the first is Otis and the Scarecrow by Lauren Long, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and the second is Library Mouse by Daniel Kirk, which I gave 5 stars. Super, super cute. Next I read The Babysitter's Coven by Kate Williams. I do plan on doing a book review for this, so I'm not going to go too into it, but I didn't like it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I liked the first part pretty well. Like, it was a solid 3.5 star. And then a twist happened. And then stuff came out of left field, and it just, I didn't really like it. It felt like it was trying too hard and that it was missing something. And I felt horrible because I really wanted to like this, but I just didn't, and I thought it was cheesy. And I'm sorry if you really liked it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, but it just was not the book for me. Next, I read The Price Guide to the Occult by Leslie Walton. This was another read for the Gilmore Girls readathon. I read it for the prompt, read a book with the mother-daughter relationship in honor of Lorelai and Rory. So this book I read with Cheyenne from the Book Mermaid. It was our buddy read. And it follows the story of Noor, and she just wants to live this unremarkable life on this little touristy island that she lives on. And this mysterious book comes out, The Price Guide to the Occult, with spells, and every spell has a cost. So then you start to see people with these fern tattoos, and weird things start happening, and it's very ominous, and it goes from there. And I really liked the first part of this book. I loved the atmosphere and the description, and I loved the prologue showing the different generations of the Blackburn family, which is Noor's family, and it's very matriarchal, which I really appreciated. But then the second half of the book just really took a nosedive, to be frank. I thought that the romance came out of literally nowhere, and things were wrapped up way too quickly, and some things didn't make sense. And it just almost felt like two different books. Like, the first half was pretty good, and I really, really, really loved the description and the care to detail. And then the second half just felt like thrown together and just a victim of a deadline, and I just wasn't a fan. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed reading it with Cheyenne. She's awesome, but I just wasn't a huge fan of this book, and that made me really sad because it's gorgeous. So, at least there's that. Next was another book for the Gilmore Girls readathon, and it was for, in honor of Lane, read an Asian author or a book with Asian representation. And I read Christie's Great Idea by Anne M. Martin. This was the first book in the Babysitter's Club series, which is a children's series that is pretty much a classic, I think. I grew up reading these books, and so going back and reading the first one was fun and nostalgic, and it was Christie's Great Idea, so the start of the Babysitter's Club and how that came to be, and you get to know a lot of the characters, Chrissy, Claudia, Stacey, all the originals, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I can definitely see why they're still popular today. So I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it. And if you hear chewing, the Butch Black's down there chewing on his elk antler, again, as per usual. The next book I read was, again, another prompt for the Gilmore Girls readathon, and that was to read a book set in fall or winter, and for that I chose Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. It is a middle grade book, and it follows the story of 11-year-old Ollie, and she suffers a really tragic loss, and so she finds comfort in books and in reading. And one day she is out and about, and she sees this woman who's just going mad, threatening to throw this book in the water, and Ollie just steals the book and runs away. And as she begins reading it, she begins learning about this girl and her story and how she made a deal with a smiling man who will grant a wish. And she just thinks this tale is really cool until her class goes on a class trip to a small farm, and it does have a haunted history. And as she's there, she begins seeing the names of the people in the book on the tombstones at the farm. And on the way home from the class trip, the bus breaks down and the bus driver starts acting really strange, and Ollie and two of her classmates decide that they're going to get out of there, and things go from there. And I didn't give a really good synopsis, but I thought this book was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the atmosphere, and I loved that Ollie found solace in books, because that's how I've always been. And I thought that it was just the right amount of spooky, and I definitely got the fall vibes. Like, it just made me want to have everything to do with fall, so I definitely recommend it. Next, I read Serpent and Dove by Shel Mahurin. I won't go into this because I do have a book review for this, which I'll link above. But I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. Highly recommend. And go check out the video for more details. And Serpent and Dove, I read for a prompt for Grandma Girls Readathon. And that was to read a book with a complicated love interest, which definitely applies to the main characters in this book. The next book I read was also for the Gilmore Girls Readathon, and it was read a book with food on the cover or in the story in honor of Suki, and for that I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Again, I have a book review for this, so I apparently was just on fire with my book reviews last month, but I'll link it up above. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook. It was breathtaking, and the story was phenomenal, and I definitely recommend you check it out. The next prompt that I read a book for the Gilmore Girls Readathon is a book with a school setting in honor of Chilton, and for that I read Of Curses and Kisses by Sania Menon. This is actually an ARC or an advanced reader copy. I am part of the street team. Can't talk. Why am I like this? I'm part of the street team that is promoting this book. It comes out in February of 2020, and this is a modern Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I know there's been a lot of, but I really enjoy this because it's set in a really unique boarding school, and Jaya, the main female protagonist, is basically an Indian princess, and she and her sister have come to this school in order to avoid or, get away from a scandal that happened in India. And her family is enemies with Gray's family, and when Jaya learns that Gray is attending this boarding school, she decides that she is going to go so that she can get her revenge, because she thinks that he is the cause of the scandal that happened in India. And I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought the atmosphere was really awesome, and Sania Menon writes romance in such a sweet way, and I really love the authenticity of the cultures that are in here, and I love that this boarding school is just full of these elitist rich kids, and you get to see their lives, and there's definitely a lot of personality in this book, and it's definitely a little different than her other books, but that did not make it any less enjoyable. So I do plan on doing a full book review for this with more in-depth thoughts and a more in-depth synopsis later on. And the last prompt for the Gilmore Girls Readathon is to read the next book in a series. And for that, I read In an Absent Dream by Shauna McGuire. By the time you are watching this, I will have posted this for a Manic Monday book review. And I absolutely adored this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The more I get into this series, the more I really love it. And I'll go more into that in my book review, but I do highly recommend this series, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. The next book I read is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. And this is a graphic novel that follows the story of Deja and Josiah, who are seasonal best friends at this pumpkin patch. And it is their last year to do this before going off to college. And so they have this mission that they're on, and as they're going on this mission, they're stopping by all the different stations in the pumpkin patch, and you get to see the history of their friendship and how they're feeling about moving on to the next stage in their life. And I just thought it was adorable. Next, I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Number 1, isn't this book just stunning? This is the collector's edition. I think you can still get it on Amazon, but I got mine on Book Depository, and the Crooked Kingdom collector's edition just came out, I believe, last month. But this follows the story of 6 misfits, and they are commissioned to go on this heist that seems impossible, and they have to beat all the odds in order to succeed. And I know that's not a really great synopsis, but I think you should go into this not knowing more than that, because it's just so fun to read about the characters. You get to follow each of their perspectives in this book, and you get to learn their backstory and their history with one another and learn about their personalities, as well as go on this amazing, just edge of your seat heist. And it's just so good. I read it for the second time this year, and again, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was awesome. Definitely check it out. Next, I read Sleight of Paw by Sophie Kelly. It is the second book in the Magical Cats mystery series, and it follows librarian Kathleen Paulson and her 2 magical cats, Owen and Hercules. And Kathleen stumbles upon the body of a local just do-gooder, and she enlists the help of her magical cats in order to solve the mystery, because she knows that her cats can do things that normal people can't do, so they can definitely help her get clues in order to solve the mystery. And I thought this was super cute. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely one of the better cozy mystery series that I have read, and I love Owen and Hercules. They're just adorable, and now I want magical cats, you know. I can probably get those at Sears, right? Next, I read City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is my second time reading this book this year. This follows the story of Cass, and she, as a result of a near-death experience, can now cross the veil between life and death. And her parents are people who are basically ghost hunters, and little do they know that their daughter's best friend is actually a ghost. So they all end up going to Edinburgh for her parents to shoot a television show, and Cass meets this girl who has the same abilities that she has, and she learns that she may be using her ability incorrectly and that maybe she should be doing more than she is with her ability. And I absolutely adored this. It's a middle grade book and it's just spooky enough without being terrifying. And I love the Scottish setting and the folklore that's in here and all the description and the atmosphere. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into Tuttle of Bones. Next, I read the book Copycat Killing by Sophie Kelly. This is the 3rd book in the Magical Cats mystery series. And once again, we follow Kathleen Paulson, and she stumbles upon the body, and with the help of her 2 magical cats, Owen and Hercules, solves the mystery. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars again. It was a cute, cozy, really fun, and I enjoyed my time reading it. Next, for the 3rd time this year, I read There's Something About Sweetie by Sania Manon because I was just in the mood for something that would make me happy and feel good and just jovial. So I will not go into this because I do have a book review that I'll link. I obviously gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed my time reading it, and I loved it just as much as I did the first 2 times I read it. And the last few books are books that I read during my days at my practicum. So that would be The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, 4 out of 5 stars. The Life Cycle of a Tree by Bobby Cowman, 3 out of 5 stars. Turkey Trick or Treat by Wendy Silvano, 4 out of 5 stars. The Legend of Spookly by Joe Troiano, 4 out of 5 stars. And Pumpkin Jack by Will Hubble, 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, I read 5,867 pages, and that is not including the books that I started and did not finish this month. So I had a really good reading month. That was a total of 24 books, and I participated in the Gilmore Girls Readathon, and I buddy read Price Guide to the Occult with Cheyenne, and then I buddy read Serpent and Dove with Sunny and Serenity Dawn. So overall, really enjoyable month. I loved my time during the Gilmore Girls Readathon. It was so fun rewatching the show and reading books that were based on prompts from the show. And it was a good time. So what did you guys read in the month of October? Did you participate in the Gilmore Girls Readathon? If so, let me know down below. I'd love to hear what you read. Or if you read anything that I read, let me know. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. And click the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload new content. See you guys next time. Bye.